Hello and welcome to this discussion, Framing and Claiming Success for South African Women, brought to you by Momentum. Now, Momentum's recent report around framing and claiming success for South African women, it decodes the often invisible frameworks that are shaping women's pursuit of success. It reveals the tensions, aspirations, and support systems that define their financial, emotional, and societal progress today. This makes it the perfect foundation for the discussion today around the campaign. Join us as we unpack the opportunities, the challenges, and strategic pathways to realizing success, financial well-being, and that seemingly elusive aspect called balance in South Africa's economy. My name is Mudiwa Gavaza of the Business Day and Financial Mail, and I'll be your host for what looks to be a great conversation. Now, joining me today is Mmasechaba, Gxolo, who is part of the research and insights team over at Momentum Group. Mmasechaba, greetings to you today.
Good day to you, Mudiwa. Lovely to be here with you.
No, thank you so much for being with us today. You heard us in the intro, talking about, this report that was conducted by Momentum, and obviously you had a hand in it and actually drawing and helping to maybe tease out some of those insights. What are the key takeaways that you hope people can actually take?
I always find that is always a really good question to start with, right? Is having the end in mind. Why do we do this kind of research? And one thing at Momentum, I think, just to land the point, is we really care about understanding and truly understanding, actually, the needs of our clients that we serve, what ways we can make an impactful difference in helping people achieve success and their journey to success. So we know in our country we've got this major August month that is very topical and leaning towards how do we serve women? What are the things we need to understand about women? The famous question, what do women want? And what we found was when we were trying to actually unpack that and understand it, there's a lot of global studies, a lot of international studies that have been done in the US and the UK that talk about the success women want, climbing the corporate ladder, breaking the corporate ceiling. And we wanted to understand what is the dynamics that exist in South Africa when it comes to how women define success. So to answer your question, really the most interesting thing was to discover that women in South Africa don't define success as, living in Sandton, having a nice car, taking your children to private school. But success for women in South Africa is about leaving a legacy. It is about providing impact to those that are around them, to be able to say with their, hand on their chest, that this is what I achieved for those that love me, for those who I love, for my immediate surroundings and the community that depend on me. And I think that lack of ego when it comes to defining success is quite interesting, really, and I think it speaks to the culture of our country, Ubuntu really being the main driver around that. So that for me was one of the most surprising findings.
It's an interesting set of findings that's there, and I have this, I don't know if I can call it a running theory, but I just have this thing, and we've spoken about it on a number of different platforms, informally with my friends, but also with some financial experts that we engage with, that in many instances, people that are able to make a big impact on the world or to leave legacies, like what you're talking about, are people that aren't worrying about bread and butter issues. There's a certain level of financial independence, and in many instances, the people that you see taking big risks, are the types of people that know that, I'll take this risk, but at home, my family will still be catered for, we'll still have a roof over our head. So given how important financial independence is, around this well-being that we're talking about, it's quite startling that only 1 in 3 women actually report that they are financially secure. What's the role of financial institutions in actually helping to remedy that situation?
And I think when we talk about that financial security, so as you so rightly say, a lot of people, you can only reach this higher order thinking of, helping to drive impact, taking big risks in order to get big rewards, when you feel that the home fires are burning very solidly, there's no chance of them being extinguished. And what we do find is that when we talk about financial security and financial independence, one of the main triggers around that is the confidence and the knowledge to understand and to be secure in your understanding of how to achieve financial independence or gain financial security. And one of the interesting things about the report is that while women identify success as having achieved financial independence, their energy and their efforts aren't actually placed towards that aspect, right? So they focus on things like emotional health and well-being, education. We've got spirituality that comes in there, and definitely in terms of nurturing and raising children and just gaining their own confidence in order to pursue parts of their life that will achieve financial security and financial independence. So what is it, and how can we intervene in that understanding, I guess, as financial institutions, is to provide the education, it's to provide the financial literacy, and to provide the advice that gives women the confidence to see themselves out of feeling like they are not able to take on the risks to, achieve financial independence, grow their wealth, take on products or services that they think maybe are reserved for those who are more wealthy than they are. Because really, when it comes to financial independence, financial literacy, even financial security, it can be achieved at any stage.
There are two data points that I'm just going to, call out here, maybe as a quick follow-up to what you're saying about confidence, right? Yeah. Because you highlight that 39% of women feel that self-doubt is the main barrier to success. That's one. And then secondly, and it feels tied to that, is that 81% of women say that the most defining characteristic of success, is confidence. So am I hearing you correct in saying that helping to solve the financial insecurity goes a long way in maybe remedying the situation around the self-confidence aspect? Absolutely.
Yeah. That's exactly it. I think what I'm sure many people have experienced, we all have mothers, and if not your mother's around, you have motherly figures or motherly role models, right, that you grew up with. And one thing you will always pick up about a woman is their ability to just make things happen, right? Their ability to know what needs to go where, who needs to be where, what needs to, I guess, happen in order for life to continue, right? And that is an innate gift, I guess, that women have, an invisible code, as we like to say, that helps them navigate the world and navigate the people around them. Now, what we find is that when you are not confident, or when you lack confidence, rather, let me say, on a particular aspect, it then can impact the way you move in that space. Yeah. Right. So we need to learn to build, or I guess financial institutions, or just as a society, we need to build and grow the areas where we are not confident, because in achieving that confidence and getting to that secure state of knowledge, of understanding, we will thrive and be successful, right? Because that is a measure of success. Those women that look up and say, oh, I identify success as this, 81%, as you rightfully say that confidence is the main marker. But if 39% of women say that the main barrier to them feeling like they can achieve financial independence is that self-doubt, is their ability to not feel like they can, how do we empower that? How do we create that feeling for them? How do we close that gap such that they can see themselves on the other side of it? And it is an important role, I guess, even institutions like Momentum Group that can play when it comes to the role of advice, when it comes to kind of identifying these areas that go unnoticed, right? That kind of move in silence. We all see and we feel them, but we aren't able to define them. Yeah. Studies like this really help us to be able to define those aspects, to be able to pinpoint the areas in which we can drive success for women. And success for women naturally equates to success for society, success for community.
One of the things you mentioned earlier on, when we started this conversation, was the aspect that the definition of success, for many women doesn't necessarily track with what I guess we consider in mainstream society, the Santon, the Santon example that you gave. But you guys did find that definition of success that women do have is quite disparate from their current realities. in South Africa right now. What's actually being done as far as you're concerned from a systemic point of view? What needs to be addressed most urgently to help to maybe close the gap between where people are aspiring to go versus the current reality?
I guess it's that, can-do gap, or the say-do gap that needs to be addressed. As much as women define success, the level of financial independence as a marker of success, the level of income, of education, of stability in this economy as markers of success, I think the main gap we need to address is their understanding of their ability to reach it. Right? There's this thing that makes it feel far away for some, but there's also a thing that makes it feel like it isn't for them. So it's not even so much to say that, oh, will I ever reach it? It feels so far away. Am I on the right track? Which of course can be dealt with financial advice. It can be dealt with tapping into networks. But there is something about helping them see themselves in that reality in the first place. Because you've got the removal in terms of distance, but you also have the removal in terms of it can never be for me, and that isn't for me. And I think that is an interesting conversation, or something that we would want to kind of deep dive into in terms of making success relevant to them and then making success accessible to them.
Another data point, and maybe it allows us to get a little bit deeper into what you've just said now. 55% of women feel empowered to pave their own path despite traditional norms, right? Based on what you've just said, I'm wondering, is this a contradiction, or is this just a nuance of the experience that women are getting in South Africa?
So like I said, there's two halves. So you have the 55%, right, that do want to pave their own way. They feel empowered to do so. Society is set up that they can take on that role, and they see themselves taking on that role. So you've got that portion of women who are keen to do that, and then you've got the other one who don't see themselves as being able to. So it's great that the majority of women do feel like they can pave their own way, and the role of advice in terms of helping them find that direction, the role of education, financial literacy in achieving their goals and helping them achieve that success journey that they're on. But on the other side, we do have women that say, this is important, but I'm not going to focus on it. I know financial independence is important, but on the bottom side, it is the least prioritized thing in my life. I know that spirituality maybe isn't as important, but I'm going to dial that all the way up in my life and focus on that. So when you have a diverse group of women who, on the one side, want to achieve success and know they can, and on the other side, don't feel like it's within their realm, I think the study actually does speak to both. And both realities do exist.
Okay, so complex.
As is life, yes.
Now, a conversation around what's happening with women in society, success, and building wealth is almost incomplete if we don't also locate it within the fact that they're also women. That are engaging with men on a daily basis. Men are the other big stakeholder in this thing called life, right? And your report, as with many other research studies done, for a long time, you have people, women reporting that they don't feel supported by the men, in their lives. What can be done, to actually engage men more effectively, so that they become allies as opposed to, I don't know, can I call them enemies? But
bystanders.
Yes. so that they actually become, an effective partner, and also become, a force that can actually help, to advance a lot of the things that we're talking about.
The study found that women feel only 7% of men actually support them on their journey to success.
I'm not very proud of my gender right now.
Yeah, I think, it's how we define success. So you rightfully say, how can we empower men not to just be bystanders, but to be allies? And an interesting thing, I think it comes across in all aspects in life. A lot of the time you'll find men say things like, I don't know how to support my women. Women are now taking on roles that are not traditional. Women are taking on roles that are not normal, that society hasn't made space for. And if I allow her to achieve her success, if I allow her to find financial independence, then where is the space for me? What is it that I am meant to do as a man, defined as a protector and a provider? And I really think we need to see that successful woman doesn't mean taking on the pants in the home.
Yeah.
Right? It isn't yin or yang or a zero-sum game when it comes to empowering and enabling the woman around you to achieve success. Women achieve success in a nurturing and caring role that is, I guess, predefined for women. Women achieve success even in the workplace. If you think about some of the most successful women CEOs, there are a lot of studies that refer to the fact that women CEOs are high on the empathy scale, are high on the EQ scale. Kind of the culture in the organizations in which they lead are very great when it comes to caring, empathy, when it comes to productivity and driving that side of life and that side of the emotive aspect of people. And what I feel like men get threatened by, or even with the research, we did speak to some men to get their perspective in this research, but a lot of them just feel like, if I give too much room for a woman to succeed in my life, where's the room for me?
Curious about the things, or either one or two takeaways that actually did surprise you around the reality, of women right now, some of the barriers that people, are facing.
Yeah, there were a lot of surprising stats, to be honest. I think the most surprising, or the most, let me say encouraging rather, is that when it comes to how women define financial independence or financial success, having these foundations. So we have it in the report, it's pictured as like a triangle, where at the base we've got women talking about stability, right? That is foundational stability, whether it is being able to not live paycheck to paycheck, having a savings account or having multiple streams of income, that is a base. And then what was surprising to me is that the higher order needs, like having insurance, having wealth insurance, having property, having estate planning in place, seems to them a lot further along. And for me, I'm just like, no, that's not how it has to work. All these things can exist at the same time. So it is encouraging when you find, or you kind of unpack a lens into how women view the way that they can achieve financial independence. And then in so doing, you're actually opening up yourself to realizing how you can provide impact and what change you can provide, and just showing them that actually this idea that you have isn't the reality. And I'm so glad that we found that out for you so that we can show you the right way.
All right. On that note, that's where we end today's discussion. It has been a great and insightful one. Just talking about what's happening, the economic and financial realities of women in South Africa. I think two key takeaways on my side is, firstly, the fact that the definition of success, for many women is not what it is thought about in mainstream terms. And then I guess the second piece, the type of confidence that comes from achieving financial security, once again being almost re-emphasized to say that if you can take care of some of these bread and butter issues, you can actually help people, to some of those higher order, levels of thinking, aspirations, or taking on some of that additional risk.
Yeah, absolutely right. Really enjoyed this conversation. Thank you. And I'm glad you got some interesting insights from us, Daddy.
Definitely. So that brings us to the end of this podcast on framing and claiming success for South African women, brought to you by Momentum Group. Thank you so much to Mmasechaba, Gxolo, who is the Insights lead over at Momentum Group. I've been your host, Mudiwa Gavaza of the Business Day and Financial Mail. Remember that you can subscribe for free on iono.fm, Spotify, Player.fm, Pocket Casts, or wherever you choose to get your podcasts.